Good morning, everyone. A good Erev Shabbos. Tonight, Be'ez Hashem, is Shabbos, Parsha Emor. And I just want to share one small idea with you to think about. The Parsha goes on to explain all about the kohanim and the high levels of kedusha, of holiness and sanctity that they are supposed to conduct their daily lives with. Which means that there's things that they're not allowed to do, places they're not allowed to go, people that they're not allowed to come in contact with when the laws of impurity will come into play. And therefore their whole life is structured in such a way that there's an enormous amount of influence of kedusha, of holiness, of sanctity, which they have to inculcate into their lives, and which they are obligated as well to guard themselves to make sure that they stay in that way. So this is reminiscent of what we learned last week when the Torah speaks about the global obligation to Klal Yisrael of Kedoshim Tiyu, that a person has to be a holy Jew. And of course the obvious question is, what is Kedusha? What does it mean to be holy? Is holiness a person who will sit inside of a Beis HaMidrash and he will learn 20 hours a day? Is holiness a person who refrains from eating throughout the day? He fasts almost every day of the week, from morning until night, and he just eats a little bit at nighttime? Is holiness someone that will stand in tefillah, in prayer, for hours upon hours, crying their eyes out with heart-wrenching prayers up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the heavens? All of those things might appear to be high levels of kedusha, of holiness, and in fact, they probably very well are. But it's unattainable for many of us to be in such a state. And how could it be that the Torah would tell every single Jew has to be kedoshim, has to be holy, if the measure of holiness is something that we ourselves cannot reach? And therefore Rav Hirsch writes that what is kedusha? Kedusha is when a person recognizes that inside of them everybody has pullings and yearnings, and they have Yetzer Hara, they have an evil inclination that is trying to draw them in the wrong and the negative direction. And if a person will just be in control of themselves and their urges and their desires, if a person simply will learn how to be kovish, how to rule over their desires and not allow their desires and the Yetzer Hara and the inclinations to rule over them, that itself will be kedusha, that will be holiness. Which means that if a person, for example, has a trait of kas, of anger, and they're in a situation where normally they would allow themselves to get angry, and they stop for a moment and they think and they control the angry words from coming out of their mouth, or from the red face happening, or the veins popping out of their neck, and they keep themselves calm, that is kedusha, that is holiness. A person is a lazy person. It's hard for them to get out of bed in the morning and run to the shul to daven. It's hard for them to do chesed, to do acts of kindness. It's hard for them to be involved with mitzvahs because it requires work and effort. And in a moment when normally they would be lazy, and the inertia is beginning to take them over, suddenly they overcome that lazy attitude that's there inside of them, and they push themselves forward to do what is right. That's kedusha, that is holiness. A person is sitting down for a meal and they are eating, and Baruch Hashem, everything on the plate is kosher, and it has so many different hechsherim, and anybody in the world would be allowed to eat it. We know that there's no problem with it, and you're eating and you're eating, and you already had firsts and you already had seconds now, and now you're ready to take thirds. You're not really hungry anymore. You don't really need any more food. And therefore, before you stick out your hand to take the third helping, to pile up your plate, you stop and you control yourself. That is kedusha. Which means that in so many areas of our lives, from the most holy to the most mundane, it's possible for a Jew to constantly find kedusha, holiness in their lives. May we take the inspiration from the life of the kohanim, where everything about them, it speaks and bespeaks the kedusha, the holiness and the sanctity which they are to reach. Let us turn that back to ourselves and realize we are the mamleches kohanim. We are the kingdom of kohanim, of high priests, each and every one of the Jewish people, and we can always, each and every one of us, attain levels of kedusha that perhaps in the smallest ways possible will make us the kedeshim tiyu, the holy nation of mamleches kohanim ugoy kadosh, this beautiful, wonderful people who lives a life of sanctity, of purity, of holiness, so that Hashem should look down on us and say, Kedeshim Tiyu, you are holy, and I am holy, and therefore we live in a world that is imbued and infused with the holiness of our Hashem, of our nation, and of our Torah. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos. We look forward to starting a new Sefer on Sunday. I have several ideas of what it is exactly we're going to learn. If anybody has any requests, please send me a message or give me a call today, because Be'ez Hashem by Sunday morning we'll be starting something brand new. All the best.